All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I feel a little fall in the air, nice and cool. This is Jason Leva with the Fort Worth Community Arts Center. We would like to welcome you to another episode of our boxed lunch program. Happy Monday to everyone. I have a
Happy
feeling
Monday.
that this interview will turn out happily ever after. We are venturing into the storytelling world today, and we have a fabulous host with us. We are so very excited to welcome our guest, the one and only Oba William King. How are you doing today, Oba?
Hello, Jason. I am well. Hello to everyone listening. Hello. Happy Monday, everybody.
Indeed, indeed. My good friend, we had our previous guest drop out, and I had the pleasure of meeting you. Has it just been a year, I guess?
It has indeed. Would have been a year in about May.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And you continue to come through for me. I cannot thank you enough. You took this interview on short notice, and we are just so blessed to have you. Do you mind taking a minute and just introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about who you are and what it is you do?
Absolutely. My name is Oba William King. The name Oba, first and foremost, is a traditional name, an African name, which was blessed to me by the ancestors. And during a naming ceremony there by the water lakefront in Chicago, Illinois, I was donned the name Oba. Oba comes from Benin, West Africa, and it represents the king or a leader within the community or village. So that being born king, known in my family as Billy King, all of my friends began to call me Oba in the work that I did as a poet and storyteller, developing programs in and around Chicago, Chicagoland, and in Illinois through the Illinois Arts Council. So I'm a new resident in the Texas area. I claim DFW. I have a small place over in Dallas. I spend most of my time in Forest Hill. So back and forth between the two, I'm able to develop some of the teaching artist programs, which seems so full here in the state of Texas, working with a group of storytellers, the Tejas Storytelling Association. And I'm a new member, roster artist for the Texas Commission on the Arts. So I spend my time as a storyteller. I've got a couple of books, constantly creating storytelling programs. And now in this world of online and virtual programming, the storytelling works out quite well.
Well, we are so blessed to have met you. You have performed for us at the Arts Center a couple of times with our Celebration of the Arts. You were also in our Fringe Festival last year, and we were just so blessed to have you. What a wonderful, wonderful talent. To watch you perform is amazing. The music, the stories, all of that. So we're very, very blessed to have bumped into you, and very privileged to have had you perform at our space a few times as well. So
Thank you.
I can't thank you enough for finding us, and it's just been a pleasure to get to know you and watch all the wonderful work you do. Now, you had a gig this weekend, is that correct?
Say that again.
You had a gig this weekend, is that correct?
Oh, yes. One of the opportunities to join the Mansfield Alley Music Festival. Now, this is a very interesting story. Just like I found you all there in Fort Worth, I was coming back from Utah. I had some programming in Utah, a teaching program and a storytelling festival. I had maybe a month prior, I've seen the information about the Fort Worth Arts Council, the Arts Center, and I saved it on my phone. When I registered so I can get the newsletter and information, when I landed at DFW coming back from Utah, I got a ding on my phone, and the ding let me know that you guys were having a mixer. And I must have landed probably about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. A mixer was going to start at 6:30 or so. And I realized that I could get my luggage, I can get home, change quickly, and make it over to the mixer. So when I showed up, when I see a call for artists, I believe that they're talking to me. But when I showed up, I realized actually the call for artists are for visual artists, textiles, maybe the ones who work with clay, painters and sculptors and that kind of thing. So I said, well, I'm a storyteller, which is, you know, the spoken word arts, traditional folk arts. And I met the director. She came with such energy and she says, oh, this is great. And told me immediately about the Fringe. You then invited me to become a part of the Fringe Festival, which gave me an opportunity to demonstrate what the art of storytelling is on stage, minimal prop, maybe some external music because I like rhythm and rhyme with my storytelling. So it's been a super, super fantastic meeting. So I continue to try to fit in places where the traditional folk arts are not very well known. People don't really see storytellers or storytelling as part of the general arts community. And I was told then by one of the other storytellers, Ms. Tony Simmons, who worked out at Cedar Hill Public Library. And she says, well, the Texas Commission on the Arts, they have their every 2 years that they invite new artists in. And I was right on time to make a submission with some of the videos and some of the productions that I'd done in the past. And then COVID hit. You usually wouldn't know that you're part of the council until September. But this time they pushed it forward, and by June, so it would have been 1 year after meeting you all, I then was invited to be a part of the Texas Commission of the Arts on the artist roster, which then allows non-for-profit organizations to receive a discount or financial support to pay an artist based on their fees. I think I remember the first time that you had asked me to perform, you said, well, what do you charge? And when I told you the basic charge, you were like, yeah. I said, no, I'm brand new. So listen, I understand coming from the inner city of Chicago, you know, I've built that reputation over 15 years. So there was a standard of pay for the artist, and all of the support came from Illinois Arts Council. So the benefit of joining the Texas Commission on the Arts was to be able to charge a fee that the non-for-profits can't afford, because the Arts Council then supplements the amount to make it what we're used to as a rate. So getting to your question, Mansfield had the Alley Music Festival, and doing what I do, I was calling around and I saw, well, Mansfield has an Arts Council. I contacted the Arts Council, Ms. Rosalie Gilbert. She answered the phone and she says, well, the Mansfield Arts Council is really, well, it's me. But we're working on projects and we're doing programs. I will introduce you to the librarians in the school district around here. But we have an event coming up here in October. Would you be interested in performing for that event? And I right away said, yeah. And she says, well, check out your website and I'll get back to you. So they saw all of the information that I have on the website. It's really a conglomeration of like 12 years of interactive storytelling, touring in Jonesboro, Tennessee, Washington, D.C., over at the Kennedy Center, in Georgia, in Portland, Oregon. Of course, my base was Chicago, but I got to travel around the country. And one organization, the National Association of Black Storytellers, they have an annual festival and conference, and it's in a different state each year. So I got to meet people in Detroit and Minneapolis, Minnesota, and we went to San Diego, California when I first joined that organization. So she says, you have a wonderful website. We really want you to perform. From that point, about 5 months before the performance, I started workshops and you guys called me again. and asked if I would perform for the celebration that you had a new art opening. I invited a local drummer, Baba Leo Hassan, who joined me outdoors playing drums and telling stories. And the audience would just flow in and flow past and just stop and listen. And one of your interns happened to come. She says, "Hey, I saw your name. I remember I met you last year." And I said, "Oh yeah, I remember." And we talked for a moment, and she said she had time to do some work like an intern to help us get our bookings and help us to get our information online and to reach out and help. She's such a great organizer. So the next thing you know, I'm rehearsing with different drummers and a dancer, and a vocalist pops in the room. And so we now have an ensemble. So I called Rosalie back and I said, "Look, it's not just me with my drum. It's going to be about 3 or 4 of us. Is that okay?" And so she made it so that it was okay. And we had a fabulous, fabulous time telling stories, playing the rhythm of the drum, and just introducing the community to what is African-American storytelling.
Yes, and so interesting and so well done, Oba. I can't say enough about the pleasure of watching you perform. Just such heart and professionalism. And, you know, here I am, 49 years old, and by the end of your show, I'm clapping along and singing, and it takes a pretty good performer to move me that well. So I can't say enough about just the heart that goes into what you do. I just truly, truly enjoy it, and just feel very blessed to have met you and had the opportunity to watch you at your craft. It truly is amazing. So great job, great job.
Thank you so very much.
Of course. So my friend, what is on your lunch menu today?
Well, so what I have going on today, my lunchtime consists of generally just some fruit and vegetables. So I was at the Pan-African Connection on Saturday, and a group of young people, they had gotten the variety of fruit that they offered to performers. We were drumming there, and they told me to get the ugly fruit. So I've never had it before, and it is indeed ugly fruit. So I'm going to dive into this ugly fruit, which was looks like if it's going to be edible, it's ready to eat now. So I'll just peel it back and get out a few of my long blades, put it on a cutting board, and see what we can do.
Well, it sounds
with the ugly fruit, okay? So
all of my lunches tend to be ugly food by the time I'm done with them. So mine should fit. I'm making chili dogs today. So I'm gonna throw a hot dog in a skillet, warm it up, warm up some chili, and toss a little cheese on it, and see what I can create today as well. So
there we go. There we go. Chili dogs.
If there's nothing better on a nice, cool afternoon. So I'm glad fall's here. It allows me to get away with some of those crock pot recipes that we all so enjoy so much.
Yes. Well, so now my skill set is not in the kitchen at all, but I am adventurous. And so last week I brought out the crock pot and decided that I was going to make chili. So, like I do almost everything, "Hey Siri, how do you make chili?" And so she showed the ingredients, and I purchased everything that I needed to buy. My only mistake, so I'm gonna make it again maybe in a few days. My only mistake was I just bought hamburger meat. I didn't buy chili meat. So the concoction was very kind of just grainy, because the meat just boiled down to little pebbles of small, looked unedible. But I had enough of the black beans inside, and cut up in a whole onion, and full tomato, 2 cans of that stewed tomatoes, and served it over some of my favorite bread, and some Texas toast, and it was good. It was good. So
nice.
I'm getting there.
There's nothing better. I'm about ready to try my chili recipe as well. I use stew meat sometimes for that very same reason. So another little tip for you there. If you like a little bit of more chunky meat in your chili, you can always go for the stew meat. That certainly won't dissipate like some of the hamburger meat does.
Yeah. So that's the deal. What's funny is that my phone is right here on the counter, and Siri heard me say, "Hey Siri, how do you make chili?" So she's giving me the recipe now. I was hearing something in the background. I'm like, "Who's talking?" It's Siri. She's my friend.
Siri's always there for you, especially whenever you're not eating.
Yeah.
So Oba, as we get started with our lunch here, I was curious if you wouldn't mind telling me a little bit about how are storytellers reacting to and been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic? I know that it's important to have people up close and personal with some of these stories. How is your group dealing with all of this?
Very good. Great question. And I'll tell you what, we were actually in a conference festival with the Tejas Storytellers back in March. I remember that it was about the 12th of March was my date to arrive up in Denton. And there was no news yet. It was just starting to come out. One of the schools that I did a teaching artist program, they were going on their spring break. So my last performance with them was on Wednesday. I said I could be there on Thursday. I believe that it was Friday that I made it to the conference, and we got the word that the state was saying to close down, and the mayor of Denton said no longer will we have after Saturday. We won't have any of these large gatherings. So it was the Saturday program was really, everything was pushed over into Friday. When they had the Liars contest, a couple of people couldn't make it because they were coming from out of town. They couldn't travel. The hotels were shutting down. And they asked if I would join the Liars contest. So I, joined the Liars contest and actually won the first place of the Liars contest. And it's not as bad as it sounds. People who don't know storytelling, the Liars contest, really the tall tales is the idea of telling a story that has no possibility of being true and telling it with all of the passion of a real true story. And then that's the way that you get to be considered the big liar. So it's not as horrible as you can imagine, because I know a few people are thinking about somebody who probably win the Liars contest nearly every day. But what we did then, I came home on Saturday and just tried to think it through what was going to happen. The school programs that were supposed to be scheduled for Monday through Friday of the following week were all shut down. And I just thought about how we're going to handle and manage this. On Monday morning, it's one of those feelings that you get that I heard my mother's voice. God rest her soul, my mother's passed away. And I heard my mother's voice say, "Get up." Because Monday I was just like, what do I do? I got up, I opened up my Facebook page, and I punched live for the very first time. I'd never done Facebook Live. And I punched live, and as a matter of fact, my camera was in the horizontal position, and so I was sideways to all of the viewers who started popping on as soon as they saw my name. I was telling stories. I was like, just storytelling, and I was just telling stories. And then, but now there's all of this information scrolling up the side of the screen. But I can't look over there because I'm going to lose my concentration in the story that I'm telling. So I'm trying not to look over there. And finally, I said, okay, everybody's writing, so I have to see what you're saying. So I look over there, and everybody's saying, turn your camera around. You're upside down. So I grabbed the unit, and I flipped it. I said, let's go around the world. Everybody hold on. And I flipped myself right side up. And we had about 400 viewers. And people were really excited about it. And I was just doing like about a 30-minute storytelling session. the beauty of it is people who are in Chicago or California or New York or Florida, they can see me right now. If I have a show, I can let them know I'm going to be online, and they grab their kids and they're engaged. So we're reaching a broader audience. Learning the technology is probably the hardest part, but it's not really that difficult to push live. And then it's your content. It's about how you engage with the people who are listening, people who have tuned in. And it was really, really great that very first day. And my niece called me. And my niece said, Uncle Billy, if you put a Cash App under your name, then people can send donations. And I was like, okay, number two, what is Cash App? And where did the donations go? So she talked me through it, and I set up the Cash App, put it on so it was right beside my name. And at the end of the week, I did another storytelling time, but this time I wrote in my Facebook page, I'm gonna go live at 10 o'clock on Tuesday. And people tuned in and they shared it. And that was the most incredible feeling. And then the Cash App started dinging, and it was ding ding. You know, $5, $10 here. There was one person who sent $100. And I was like, oh no, it's $100. And then another friend from up north, kind of like in Portland, Oregon, sent another $100, Steve Reschke. And he says, yeah, well, I just had money, and it's that time of giving, so here you go. And then that became the way that some of the basics were covered right away. Another organization popped up called Artists Standing Together Strong. Artists Standing Strong Together, assist. Artists Standing Strong Together. And they were able to collect monies through their donor services and have artists to submit proposals, basically stating how you're going to keep going during this time of COVID. And of course, I had now maybe 4 or 5 of the live programs under my belt. And my plan was to continue to do as much of the live programming as I could do, and try to build a web page where people can always go and see those live performances, where we can store Facebook Live and they can always tune it up, and it's always something good and clean for their kids. So I received a grant from that organization. One of the other larger organizations sent out a proposal, and they said, you have to write your proposal, tell us what you're doing, tell us how long you've been doing that, and what you're going to do to continue to keep it going. I had to apply 3 times, but ultimately received a larger grant, which was able to catch up rent, nice. Car note, and insurance. Church organization says, hey, we got food, and we got boxes of food. So in those first few weeks, we had to reinvent ourselves, reinvent the idea of storytelling, having the ability to reach out to people and let them know storytelling is happening, it's going to be online, it's free, but if you can give a donation, please do. And the story listening audience responded, and we've been able to do some pretty wonderful programs with several different organizations, especially the East Coast organizations, because I would not have ever performed with them if they had to pay my airfare, my hotel fee, plus my fee on top of that.
Sure.
So it's that feeling of an odd, it's hard to say that there's always a silver lining, always a silver lining. So this is the silver lining to that, being able to work online, virtual programming, and create a unity, create the feeling of an audience, create that village feeling all over the country and even overseas.
Sure.
Got a couple of programs that I were able to do in India. Another couple of programs I was able to do in the UK. Wow. And that material is online. And so those audiences are able to see that work and enjoy the stories.
Nice. Well, I caught a couple early on, and again, I can't say enough about how everybody should check them out. It's just some really cool stuff. Now, you touched on this a little bit in my last question. I'm curious. You've been doing this for a while now. What have you learned about the importance of sharing cultural stories in these tribes?
Oh my goodness. You see, so I created this one story I call We're Connected, the Ancestors' Drum. It is so important that we understand that this is all a big family. We can learn so much about one another through our stories. Then we find our similarities. And it's wonderfully okay for us to be of a different background, heritage, even the color of our skin. It is perfectly okay that we are different, but we can celebrate those differences by sharing them. And I think that if my friends from around the country were able to sit here in this room, you would see that melting pot, which America is. All of us coming from different backgrounds and cultures and heritage. We have different ways of doing things, different foods that we eat, ways that we speak, understandings of situations. We can all have our own, not so much opinion, but point of view, but we can share that. And that grows us. We get stronger by sharing with one another. Yes. We're connected. And these lines just kind of came to me during the early days of playing the rhythm of the drum and finding through the drum that there's all kinds of different drums. In so many different of our cultures, the drum is very important. The drum is like the heartbeat. And you may have steel drums, you might have the taiko drums, you may have the drums that are, I play being the djembe drum and the African drum. You may have what's known as the American drum, the snare and the trap drums. But there's drums in every culture. And when you bring the drum together, you start to hear the pulse or the heartbeat. I don't care who you are, we all have that, if nothing else, in common, our heartbeat. Everyone has a heartbeat, because if you're walking in front of me, you got a heartbeat. And if you don't, yeah, get away from around me. But that we find that by sharing our stories, we make the world more accessible, and that we are sharing ourselves with one another. And you just can't help but have compassion and empathy for another person, because you feel like you know them. You begin to know who they are. You know who I am. So you're less likely to shun me or to find so much wrong with me. Instead, you're finding what's similar between us.
Yeah, and I way back a long time ago, I did a show at the Oklahoma Children's Theater, and I had the great fortunate opportunity to play Naomi the Sky God, I believe, in a series of Anansi the Spider stories. And
yes,
that was really my first opportunity to get to share those stories. But I was quite enamored with that rapscallion spider, and all kinds of wonderful, wonderful stories opened up to me as well. And I think it's just crucial that we look into different cultures and find what wonderful lessons they can teach us. And I know that there is such a beautiful thread in storytelling in all kinds of cultures and things. And I've got to experience that myself firsthand, and just can't say enough. I think one of the beautiful things about storytelling is most of the time, the sets and the characters are all created in your own mind. And imagination is one of the beautiful bridges that I love so much about storytelling, and the way that it really does capture and connect your version of the story to my version of the story, even without ever having seen or met those characters. So it's one of my favorite aspects, is to just be able to sit back and really create those sets and those images in your own imagination.
Yes.
So I have a special place in my heart for storytelling, and I've been fortunate enough to meet some fantastic storytellers in my life. And it really is the primitive art form. It's been around forever. I do believe it's kind of what started live entertainment. And I just
absolutely
good things about it. And I can't encourage people enough. If you've never gone to a storytelling show, I highly, highly encourage it, because it is it's really something to see, and an art unto itself.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so happy the way that you expressed that, because it's really true. And it's the feeling that a storyteller wants an audience member to go away with. And knowing that I may share stories that are based in the African-American culture, but that they are stories that fit all courses, all circumstances of all people. And you can find similar stories in other cultures. Some of the stories that are always there is the weak overcoming the powerful.
Yes.
And when you have the Anansi tales and the Brer Rabbit tales, you have that one who is constantly held aside or held down, outsmarting, outwitting that dominant culture or that dominant person or being. And it gives you hope. It gives the people hope. A lot of the Anansi tales that come from West Africa were brought over, of course, the same way in which African Americans were brought over from Africa. But those stories started to build up in the southern part of America with the Aunt Nancy tales. And as you were saying, Nyambi, the sky god, that there is a power that is greater than all of us, and you must answer to that sky god. And it's just incredible how these stories, they are witty, and they have the smarts that's beyond compare, and they can get themselves out of the most ridiculous situations by just using their brain.
Exactly.
You're right. It's so much fun, and when you engage an audience. And what's very interesting, what I've been doing the most of lately, I had this idea to create a concept of drive-by storytelling. And of course, coming from Chicago, since the term drive-by kind of leaves people shudder. The organization determined that they would use the idea called Patio Live. And this is Bishop Arts Theater Center over in Oak Cliff in Dallas. And there's several senior centers around that theater space. And before COVID, before the pandemic, they could get on their company bus or minivan and ride over to the theater center, where they'd have a variety of theatrical activities. They had writing and music playing, drum sessions, and games and activities for the seniors who lived in the different senior homes that lived around the center. So they decided that they were not going to lose that connection. And we started to go and visit the seniors with them inside their building, either looking out the windows or there in the atrium, looking out the doorway, and the storyteller would be outside on the patio or on the sidewalk, and they can still engage in creative activities. Storytellers, musicians, and dancers, so that they could still have a creative experience, even though we couldn't get close in one room. Eventually, they ran a story on the Dallas Morning News. I believe it's Dallas Morning News. And they came out, and we were doing storytelling time. I was doing the drumming, and the seniors were outside now. They're out on the front area, but they're all a good 20 feet away. Everyone is wearing their mask except for me, because I'm talking on the microphone.
Sure.
And just wonderful. I generally get to go there about 2 to 3 times a month to go to one of those senior centers and bring storytelling activities so that they're engaged. And it's incredible because some of the most fun that we have are nursery rhymes. Yep. And when I do the rhythm of the nursery rhymes and you get the sing-along sound, you hear them engaged and their hearts are full. And I know that because they tell me, my heart is full. And I'm like, yeah, I love that. That's what we do. That's what we do.
So Oba, I'm curious, how have you kept your focus and honed your craft during all of these shutdowns and limited gatherings?
Well, the truth of it is that indeed, storytelling is a matter of research and development. And knowing that you have this time to yourself in the home, there's material that I used a standard of storytelling manuals and booklets, watching others who are professional in their craft, gleaning some techniques from others, and always trying to create new material. As soon as the pandemic hit, as soon as we were locked inside and we started to get the rules of how you're supposed to behave, I was able to create a little ditty. And my very, very best friend, Tim Duggan, who is a professor at the University in Chicago, Northeastern, and he plays the guitar so beautifully. I'm like, Tim, I got an idea. I'm working on this little ditty about the pandemic, about wash your face and sanitize. You gotta wash your hands and sanitize, don't touch your face or rub your eyes, cover your cough with the crook of your arm so your germs won't cause nobody no harm. So then he gets his guitar and he's like, ding, 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 ding. Another piece of technology. I go to GarageBand, which I've never used GarageBand before. Right. So we record a track of the voice. I'm able to send it to him. He adds a track of the guitar. He sends it back to me. I put the voice over the guitar, send it back to him, and then he adds the harmony to my voice, sends it back to me, and boom, bam, boom, it's YouTube. It's called Wash Your Hands. And it's on YouTube. It's just a cute little ditty that we just said we'll put it out there. Encourage people to wear their mask and stay 6 feet from the next people in line. This will all be over in due time. You gotta try your best to move ahead. Follow the rules the CDC said. And then, of course, you're not being didactic. So I'm not being cruel, I'm not being mean. We all gotta fight COVID-19. Together we can beat COVID-19. So.
Nice. Well,
situations.
Yeah, after the interview,
stories.
You need to make sure and come back onto the comments section and give us the link to that fabulous song. I'd absolutely love to hear it. So, and we'll
awesome
as well, just to make sure that people are doing their part and taking care of themselves. So, Oba, how has storytelling evolved as an art form?
Well, you know the tradition. And I've got to take it from the African perspective of the jolly, or some say jelly. The jolly, you know these terms. The jolly would be more of the traditional teller who keeps the information of the village, the dates of birth of the babies, the families, and how we've moved or how we've gathered or how we've grown. And that jolly is as part of a family. That tradition is passed down to family member of the jolly. And then there is the griot. And the griot would be more a term of someone who travels. It's outside of the village. And the griot is traveling more as the storyteller, taking the lessons and stories to other villages. A lot of times stories are told because you're teaching lessons, you're growing the youth. And then there is stories that are told about the history of who and whose we are. And as the jolly, the griot, and the storyteller all kind of the same, but the storyteller is more in the class of who we are now, in a mixture of information and entertainment. You know, as I learned the craft from mostly the elders that I was able to study with when I arrived in Chicago, Illinois, were Margaret Burroughs, Dr. Margaret Burroughs. She opened the first African-American museum in the country, the DuSable Museum of African-American Heritage. And I met Dr. Burroughs when I first arrived in Chicago, having been born in South Carolina and raised in San Bernardino, California. And after the military service, I went to school up in Santa Barbara, California, and it was just the work, it was the stories that were coming out of Chicago that had me interested in moving to Chicago, right at the time that Mayor Harold Washington was elected, first African-American mayor in the city of Chicago. And when I made it then into Chicago, Dr. Burroughs was doing that work of going to the prison. Dr. Margaret Burroughs, her art in charcoal and pencil, incredible. And she would make art and give it away so that people would be inspired. And her poetry, what shall I tell my children who are Black? And it was a very important poem about children having to deal with the fact that you go to school and you might be called nappy head or a big lipped, or the fact that you have a thick, a wide nose, and that your skin is dark. And she answered the question of what do you tell these children? And you tell them that you are no less beautiful. Continue to tell your children that you're beautiful, that you are shaped in the image of God, no matter what your shape is, how you look. The Creator wanted you to be exactly the way that you are. And Dr. Burroughs had that question, and when she asked, what should I tell my children? I replied to her and I said, Dr. Burroughs, I have an answer for the question in your poem. And she asked me, what's your answer, son? And I said, tell them I love my people. And if you can just start your day with the idea of love, whatever you're gonna face, it comes from a place of love. That love is that one thing, Dr. King says, you know, love is the thing that gets rid of all evil. So if you carry love in your heart, then you have that opportunity to share an experience with another person. It doesn't matter the nationality or the color of their skin, you're sharing experiences. And that's what our human nature depends on, that we share these experiences. So through Dr. Burroughs, I got a chance to meet a Coral Harold Johnson, who was a theater director, and he says, all your passion and your energy, you've got to be able to, on command, bring that forward. So you've got to study this work. And he would show me the work of County Cullen and Paul Laurence Dunbar and Langston Hughes. And I began to learn about the African-American writers and great storytellers through the visual arts, because it was more about film and movies and acting. But I loved the idea of just standing solo on the stage and telling a story and catching the attention of a 500-person audience, and everyone in the room is engaged in what you're saying or what you're doing. It might be maybe I just love the sense that has a level of power, but I know that the messaging and what I'm saying is designed to bring people together. So I think that it's being heard. And then the grand pack of rap, the most incredible storyteller is Oscar Brown Jr., a jazz man, a poet like Shakespeare. He's got so much material. But through the Arts Council, they have a program that's called the Master Apprentice Grant. So an apprentice like myself would find a master in the art form that we're teaching, that you're wanting to learn, that you're wanting to work into. That master would accept the proposal to train. And the program lasts over a period of as long as you guys want it to, for Oscar Brown Jr. and I, it just started there and just continued on. But it's generally about a month-long program, and the Arts Council, you know, pays a stipend to the master and a stipend to the artist, and that was great. And then I met Sam Greenlee, who is the author of a book that was so important in the 60s and 70s called The Spook Who Sat by the Door. And just living in Chicago, just a regular cat, I started hosting a poetry show. And he was just sitting in the back of the room one day, and I said, "This is Oscar Brown Jr. That's Sam Greenlee. That's Gwendolyn Brooks." And they would come around. I lived in that time. It's just, the truth of it is that I'm their age now that they were when I met them. So a lot of their passing that on is like part of the tradition, like the Jolly would pass it on. Our families are extended now, and they taught me the ins and outs of how to use the gift of voice, the imagination, the ability to read and receive and then share materials that help others. I think the bottom line is just that you have a desire to help others.
Yeah, so inspiring. Just again, wonderful stories. It's so cool. So
yes, sir.
I'm curious about that ugly fruit there. Can you tell me a little bit about what all kinds of fruit and vegetables do you have there for lunch?
Well, the ugly fruit, the one thing the guy told me is that it is indeed ugly, and it's ugly. You should see the wrapping. Oh, let's see if I'll take this one and bring it close. It is indeed quite ugly. This is not something that you would just pick up and eat. And imagine this, I don't know if it grows on a tree or in the ground. The other thing that was really incredible is when my grandson went out to the farm in Virginia, they were pulling peanuts out of the ground. Blew my mind. So, okay, taste test. I'm gonna cut a small enough piece that it won't look gross if I have to do what you have to do. But well, it's not as sweet as I would want. It has seeds like a kiwi fruit. I wonder if it's in the kiwi family because it has kiwi seeds.
Wow, you are.
And that's okay.
You are.
These are local farm.
You are bold in your artistic choices and in your personal life as well. You don't even know what that is. You're just trying it.
They told me that was good. They said it's ugly fruit, and it's indeed ugly. And they said it's not as sweet as. So the way the guy said it, he said, "Oh, it's really sweet. It's so sweet." It's not sweet. It's not sour. It's not drab. It has like a taste. The primary taste is the seed. And just as you imagine how a seed would taste, it tastes brown. It has a brown taste to it.
Gotcha.
Like this little.
If anybody out there in the viewing audience wants to take a guess as to what that was, just put it down in the comments there as well. So, so Oba, what helpful community resources are you seeing or using personally, and how can storytelling in general be assisted or provide assistance to other artists or organizations?
Very good. A lot of my knowledge is based on the experiences I had in Chicago, but there are so many applications for using storytelling in the business community. We had programs whereby we would, as storytellers and actors, we would work with lawyers who were developing their skill set for dealing with different kinds of situations as their clients may have, that they would need to have legal advice or legal representation. So we would create these stories of a situation where a lawyer could then say, determine how they would deal with that kind of a client. All different kinds of situations, like there was a shortage in my garbage disposal and I dropped one of my fruit down into the sink. I reached my hand and because of the shortage, the garbage disposal came on and it chewed up my hand. I want to sue who? The landlord, the garbage disposal making company, the electricity company. So then the lawyer would, he'd have a case to figure out what would be the best process of going about that. I just made that up. That never happened. My both hands are here. In working with children, especially, one of the most important things that you can learn is the comprehension of what you're reading. And through storytelling is a way in which you can determine a person's comprehension of what they've read. So once they read a story or they're working with their sight words or whatever that they're writing poetry, that they can express themselves in their own words from what they've read. They can tell a story. And that helps them to understand, it puts a joyful, a fun element into reading. We had for the summertime in Forest Hills, a small public library, and it's a very large population of both African American and Hispanic. And one of the opportunities I saw right away was having the adults to exchange language, so that African American adults were learning Spanish and Hispanic adults were learning the English language in just an exchange program of communication, sharing stories. During the summertime, we were able to put together a program at that small library, which caught the attention of the American Library Association. The ALA wrote a review of our program and to use it as a template of how to engage young people. And our kids were tweens and younger. When we would have a selection of stories that they could read during the course of that workshop period. We had a 6-week summer program. And once they completed a story that they selected, they would write a basic book report about what they read. And once they write the book report, then they have the option of just reading that report or telling me the story. And the ones that would just love to stand up and tell their story, they're so imaginative. You'll find that they were kids who were not doing so well in school because they weren't working on comprehension. They were just reading.
Right.
So there's so many different applications that we could use. Collaboration is one of my, I guess, gifts. Being able to, imagine this, storytelling. You have a basic story that you're presenting. An artist is crafting an image through art, either pencil, paint, whatever their medium is. A musician is adding that background, the atmosphere of the story. And there you have 3 different mediums working together. I love those kinds of collaborations that we can work more together in that way. Even what we have going right here, there is a medium that allows both of us to speak at the same time. Can you imagine? I'm telling the story and playing the drum and you're singing. And those kinds of collaborations are what I would love to see more of occur. Finding ways to get, there is so much sponsorship and support around this community. It's really awesome. It is really awesome. You have major sports franchises. You have people with the expendable cash that they like to, put into their different projects that they love. But getting that to where it is in the mixture comes into the artist, so that we can create and deliver a program. Oh, and
ladies and gentlemen, had a little technical difficulty there. We are back with you here as we wrap up our box lunch episode. I apologize, Oba, you were saying?
Yes, I'm so sorry. That little technical, we'll edit that out, right?
Yes, we'll fix that in post.
Yeah. But finding those ways that we can get the funding into the hands of the artists, so that we are able to create and then show your work. So that, for example, we have these types of grants where we would have a collaboration. We'd have to submit the idea of what we were going to produce as the individual artist, not as a company of artists. And then there's that first third that lets you get started. And then you have to show your work. What are you doing? Where are you at in this point of the project? And there has to be that level of expectation so that we're all kept honest. And then the second part of that payment is made available once you get to that point, and the final payment is not made available until it's completed. I'm working on a project now that it has that situation, doggone it. A project now that has that situation. This project has that situation where the funding is paid at the very end of the grant. Well, you want to use the theater space, and the theater charges a fee. You want to pay the artist, the camera person, the sound engineer. They all charge a fee. So unless you're financially endowed, it's difficult to create new art when the funding doesn't flow to the artists. So, I mean, that's the only thing I would say would need to happen to make more new art possible.
Sure. So, Oba, as we wrap this up today, this is probably the most important question I'll ask you. How and where can we find you on social media or out in the World Wide Web and keep up with all of your fabulous activities?
That's wonderful. Thank you. That's a fantastic question. As I peel back on this mango, ObaWilliamKing.com. If you go to Google, Oba William King, and if you go to Facebook and the social media, Oba William King. I'm performing this next Friday at one of the senior centers out in Dallas. That's going to be pretty nice, but we're always streaming that live on Instagram with the Bishop Arts Theater Center. Okay. And then on Sundays, we have the drum circle. Bring your drum. And the drum circle takes place currently at the Pan-African Connection over on Marcellus on the south side of Dallas. Pretty soon we're going to have the drum circle here in Fort Worth. And we're looking forward to beginning a program with a group in Stock 6 who's working with young people in the community. So the drum connects us all.
Indeed. All right, Oba, I'm going to show you this beautiful chili dog I made here for my presentation. I don't even think I need a side today. I'm just going chili dog, the cheese. I got to say I'm pretty excited about this one.
Oh, you're a tease. I'm still cutting fruit, so I'll be here for the next 30 minutes or so. Anybody want to send a note on Facebook or something like that? Make sure that I can friend you. Oba William King on Facebook. I'll friend you. We can begin talking about collaboration and creating new stories, okay?
Absolutely.
Jason,
All right.
thank you so much.
Oh, Oba, my pleasure. Any final words of wisdom for anybody out there?
Love, love, love. That's the answer. All
What a-
right? Love one another.
What a great way to end. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up another fabulous episode of Box Lunch. Oba, thank you so much for taking the time. I just cannot say enough great things about your presentation and storytelling. Seriously, folks, check him out. He does a great job, and just so blessed again to have had the opportunity to meet you. So all the best to you, Oba. I'm sure I'll be seeing you again soon. And with
Jason,
yes.
Remember, if you're planning to do anything from December into about March, you fill out that application at the Texas Commission on the Arts to make sure that you're in there to get the funding from the Arts Council so that you're able to go into that first quarter of the new year. And we have Kwanzaa, we have Dr. King Day programs, we have African American Heritage Month, and we have National Women's Month along with National Reading Month. So we really need to get those applications into the Texas Commission on the Arts, okay?
Awesome. Oba William King, ladies and gentlemen, check him out. He is absolutely fantastic. I cannot praise him enough. Oba, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Enjoy, everybody. We'll see you again next week.
Happy Monday.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Yeah.